Recent moves by Iran is intensifying pressures on Europe to find an effective way around U.S. sanctions that blocked Iran's oil sales overseas. To tell us more about this and other big stories from around the globe is our foreign affairs expert, Lisa Daftari, joining me once again from Los Angeles. Lisa, this all began with Iran earlier abandoning the limit on its low-enriched uranium stockpile. The Islamic nation has announced a new breach of nuclear limits. Tell me more about that.
Right, and here we all thought that their nuclear program was for peaceful purposes, as they said it was. Guess it's not. This looks really bad. Yes, the US pulled out of that nuclear deal in May of last year. It put the Europeans in a very, very awkward position because they don't want to turn their backs on the US, but they didn't want to turn their backs on this deal. Now, when you have the Iranians going against their word, and actually declaring that they're increasing their uranium production, where does that really put the Europeans? But still, you have Macron meeting with the Iranians soon to discuss any ways to salvage this deal. He announced that they're going to have a July 15th meeting. It looks like they're willing to take any bad deal, but at what cost? I don't think the Europeans are in a place economically where they can turn their backs on the U.S., on the West, in favor of a deal with Iran.
The British ambassador has criticized the Trump administration as clumsy and inept through leaked memos. And Lisa, Trump has hit back saying those comments do not really serve the UK very well.
Yeah, we've heard worse that hasn't been leaked, that has been publicly said. So, it's interesting that this keeps going on and on. That's the character he is. He brings about this very unprofessional behavior in a lot of people, whether it's journalists that have to stay impartial and they don't, or heads of state that should stay professional and don't. And in this case, it's just that. It's a leaked memo. Yeah, I don't know if it really was leaked or if it was purposely said. And Trump, of course, had a rebuttal, and he thinks that this guy is not suited to play the role that he does, that he hasn't done anything good for his country. And of course, the UK is in a very precarious place right now politically, so not sure they should be the ones hurling comments over to the US, but they do anyway. And Trump could hold his own. That's all I could say.
Oh, that's right. He'll never back down from a fight. The issue of illegal border crossers continues in the United States, and a new report says the government is ready to deport 1 million undocumented immigrants.
Yes. This is a report that said, the U.S. is really cracking down. Obviously, we have a problem with illegal immigrants, with the migrants crossing over the border currently, with the detention centers, and also with homelessness across our cities. I know in Los Angeles, it's a major problem where we have typhoid and other illnesses that are prevalent in areas like downtown Los Angeles, in San Francisco and other places, and it's awful. These are, a lot of children and a lot of professionals at risk here that go to work in those major city hubs every single day. There is a major effort to crack down on illegals, and ICE has said they will do whatever it takes to make sure that those individuals here are legally documented or here, within the U.S. legal process to become documented. Look, this is not a news story. This is not something that was that sprouted up overnight or just during the Trump presidency. This is something that the U.S. has always dealt with, but it just obviously is being underscored right now because of the migrant crisis, because of the overflow, and because of this push by the left to give everything to everyone, and the country just cannot sustain it. You had every single Democrat candidate on stage on the second night of the Democrat debate saying that they want to give, first of all, that crossing the border is no longer considered illegal, and to give benefits to those individuals for their entire life. That's not a joke. Who's going to pay for all of this? This is very, very serious business. So, of course, there's a crackdown. Of course, any sovereign nation needs borders, needs laws, needs a robust immigration system.
In oil-rich Venezuela, Lisa, fuel shortages have sparked some man-made famines. Tell me more about that.
not the first time we're hearing about famines in Venezuela, but this is a new headline to say that every time there is a shortage, there is a new crisis, whether it's a food shortage, a fuel shortage, or a political crisis that sends the country into spiraling down. Nothing new, but we've heard nothing new from Guaido, the interim president that had been meeting with the United States, and nothing new from the Maduro regime. So that's when you know that the country will remain in this stalemate. And the people suffer. The humanitarian crisis does not stop. It keeps continuing on, and we hope for some relief for those individuals living there.
Now, a country I had the pleasure of visiting last year, we chatted about it in previous shows, was Cuba and Veradero. Such beautiful scenery, the people are so friendly. It's also a country, like many others, which has its fair share of problems. Cubans, Lisa, are now using social media to complain.
Yes, I actually thought about you when I saw this headline, Hal, and how lucky you were to have visited Cuba before it got to a place where we can't visit. I also had one of my interns visit Cuba, and his first reaction was that it was great, it was awesome, but I couldn't send you any photos or any videos or upload anything because the internet there is awful. The service is either non-existent or poor, and now that they are beginning to get some sort of internet service, it is extremely expensive and exorbitant. So people are taking to social media to tell the world of their grievances, that they should bajen los precios del internet, to lower the internet prices, because they want to communicate with the world. You know, wherever you have a country that is politically isolated, the best way to keep the people's minds isolated is to cut the internet or to make it extremely difficult for people to have access to the rest of the world. It usually ends up in something like what we saw in Iran, the Green Revolution, also called the Twitter Revolution, because people have access to information, to organization, to other people, to other ideas, etc. So no surprise here, but I hope that the rest of the world does listen and something is done for the Cuban people.
That's also a big issue in China as well. When I talk to some of my friends who are working overseas there, Beijing, it's really tough with the social media. Talks between the United States and the Taliban, Lisa, are on pause after their most productive season yet. The Afghan talks with the Taliban reflect a changed nation.
Yeah, this is a confusing headline, right, Hal? We always talk about different attacks of the Taliban in Afghanistan, reminding us of their presence, reminding us of the violence that they're willing to use and to what extent they're willing to use it, to go to schools and to go to coffee shops and to wait until, the end of Ramadan so that they can have more people congregated at an ice cream shop in order to have higher number of casualties. This is the group where the U.S. is meeting with, and the international community wants to basically entrust the future of Afghanistan into the hands of the Taliban because we don't have another partner there. How is this significant? How has this been our most productive season? I don't know. I don't know what's going on at the negotiating table with the Taliban, but apparently talks will go forward, and they're considered quite successful, or at least somewhat successful, and we'll see where this puts the people of Afghanistan, who have had no relief from this type of life for decades.
And speaking of the Taliban, a Taliban car bomb hit an intelligence compound in Afghanistan, Lisa, killing at least 12 and wounding school kids.
Exactly right. So this is more of the same, right? So how can we have headlines like these, where the Taliban, who will be entrusted with the future of this nation, can't take care of its constituents, school children? So there's no empathy here. There's no conscience here. They kill and they will make themselves known. So whether they're doing this as a tactical measure in order to gain followers and to gain the loyalty of the people of Afghanistan, one doesn't know. But the fact that they're willing to use this type of violence and continue during these talks, that's, I think, what's more puzzling. If you are in talks with a world power in order to talk about the future of Afghanistan, you would think they would show some more respect for the people of Afghanistan, and at least in the interim, create a peaceful environment.
More conflict in Hong Kong with the latest extradition bill protests. Lisa, Chinese tourists are looking on in amazement as Hong Kong protesters march right through the city, and a lot of them too.
Yes, this was a big one. And it broke after 11 p.m., which is very interesting. I think people were waiting for some sort of news to break or to see if something would change. But the people of Hong Kong are not backing down. They will not accept this bill. And China obviously won't back down. I think we know that well here in the United States with regards to the ongoing talks between President Trump and China. But it looks like everything is in limbo. And until there is some sort of resolution between the US and China, it doesn't look like anything in that part of the world will be settled quite yet. I think for the interim, China has difficulty. Not difficulty because they're always willing to chest thump, but difficulty truly setting the pace for the future because they don't know where they stand. So I think this turmoil between China and the U.S. and has created an opportunity for others to be heard. So whether it's Taiwan or South Korea or Hong Kong, we're hearing a lot of grievances, and I think this is an opportune time for Hong Kong to protest, to come out. They're beating the protesters. They are cracking down on the protesters, but I haven't heard anything too crazy just yet. And I think that the people in Hong Kong will continue to have their voices heard.
Now, here's kind of a twisted story. Organs of executed prisoners in Iran could be sold under a new law. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing. Unofficially, I've heard that this has happened often, and not because this was prisoners, but because of the economy. People selling their organs has been, a big market in Iran. People volunteering to do so to put food on their table for their loved ones, etc. Now, this might actually turn into something that can be done through the prison system. Of course, we're not surprised. I mean, we are surprised because it's disgusting, but we're not surprised in the sense that human rights has been nothing that the Iranian government has ever followed before. And for a while, there was some sort of break, pause, lax attitude towards cracking down on the people because Iran just couldn't afford that negative publicity back at home while having, the heightened tensions with the West. Now it seems that they find themselves in a much more confident place where they not only saber rattle in the region and against the US, they are talking back to everyone. And at home, it looks like they're ready to crack the whip once again. So for a brief period of time, I think, the people of Iran, of course, the economy has been abysmal. The sanctions have been very hard hitting. But with regards to these types of human rights abuses, they've had a small little pause, and now it looks like it's beginning once again.
So, Lisa, I'm here in Canada, home of the Toronto Raptors. You're in Los Angeles, home of the Lakers and the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard, our big star in the NBA playoffs, bringing the only championship to Canada, bolts Canada and signs with the LA Clippers. Were you surprised?
Very surprised. I wasn't surprised that he came to Los Angeles, but I was surprised that he came to the Clippers over the Lakers. My husband couldn't be happier. I think it's a great way to balance out the teams. If he had gone to the Lakers, it would have been entirely stacked. Wouldn't have been a fun season to watch. And we just watched the Clippers get very close. They were in the finals, actually. So it was a very exciting time for those Clippers fans who've been waiting decades to see something from the Clippers. But they're a hardworking team. They work very hard. They don't have that one superstar. Now they do, and they will work very well with him, I'm sure. But it'll make basketball here in Los Angeles and across the NBA very exciting, and I'm sure the Raptors will continue to do well and to hopefully have that high morale off of their big win.
Oh, yeah, they'll still be the beasts of the East. You can be sure of that. Our foreign affairs expert, Lisa Daftari, joining me from Los Angeles, home of the Clippers. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.